You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. By going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com, you can make this possible.
Let's talk about what's happening in the nation's capital. Donald Trump continues to ask foreign governments for their assistance to investigate a campaign rival. Today, he publicly called on China to investigate Joe Biden and his son, Hunter. What in the hell is this guy doing? House Intelligence Committee Chair Adam Schiff said this is shameful conduct by Donald Trump.
Once again, have the President of the United States suggesting, urging a foreign country to interfere in our presidential elections is an illustration that this president who's learned anything from the 2 years of the Mueller investigation, it's that he feels he can do anything with impunity. President of the United States encouraging a foreign nation to interfere again to help his campaign by investigating a rival is a fundamental breach of the president's oath of office. It endangers our elections, it endangers our national security. It ought to be condemned by every member of this body, Democrats and Republicans alike.
Keep in mind, this all started when Donald Trump had a phone call with the president of Ukraine, asked them for their assistance to also investigate Joe Biden. Let's talk about this with our panel there in D.C. Dr. Greg Carr, Chair, Department of Afro-American Studies, Howard University, R.C. Maxwell, Republican strategist, and also Mustafa Santiago Ali, former senior advisor for environmental justice at the EPA. R.C., got to start with you. If a Democrat had asked a foreign government to investigate a Republican campaign rival, there is no way in hell conservative radio, Fox News, the RNC would find that to be perfectly fine. What is wrong with your guy Donald Trump in asking foreign governments to investigate political rivals?
Shoulder shrug. I mean, I know that the goal here is for Democrats to sound the alarm and act like this isn't normal and everything's going to flames. However, Donald Trump has said since last year, hey, I really think Ukraine should take a look into the corruption that I've heard about, Biden. I really think China should take a look into XYZ. So he's been calling for this publicly for a long time. The Democrats are acting like this is an important... Let me finish. I'm almost done. The Democrats are acting like impeachment now is a big issue because right before we were talking about this, we were talking about reparations and Epstein. So what you see is Democrats wanting to pivot away and weaponize outrage once again and act like impeachment is something that the Americans want to see.
Reparations in Epstein? No, this is Donald Trump asking foreign governments to investigate a political rival. Are you saying you're perfectly fine with that?
I'm perfectly fine. I want my president pressuring foreign governments to divulge information about corruption that they know, whether the corruption is a Democrat or a Republican. So yes. Do you not want your president pressuring foreign governments and asking for them to divulge information about corruption? Do you know our government?
That's very interesting, Greg Carr. Greg Carr, that's very interesting because it was Joe Biden when he was vice president who called on Ukraine, Greg, to fire the prosecutor because the United States and all of the Western governments, the IMF and others felt that that prosecutor was not prosecuting corruption. So now all of a sudden, Republicans, so this is what I'm trying to understand, Greg. You hear RC say, oh, I want my president doing this, yet they are criticizing Biden because that's what he did, which was also not just him, but all of the West who were saying this guy was not investigating corruption.
Yeah, well, Roland, I don't necessarily have a dog in this fight. I think it's very amusing, really. But what I really think is this is why all public schools and private schools should have basic civics in their curriculum, beginning in elementary school. You take a presidential oath of office, and senators and congresspeople take an oath of office to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. And Donald Trump is doing, I think this is one area where he's not crazy.
Hold on, Greg, don't leave the last half off. against all enemies,
foreign and domestic.
Foreign or domestic.
Foreign or domestic.
Go ahead.
Right. Well, no, you're right, Roland, and that's why I say I don't think Trump is being, in this particular instance, that he's being crazy. He's playing the only card he has, and he's relying on the partisanship in the current political climate we have for the Republican Party to basically show that they don't give a damn about any piece of paper, U.S. Constitution or any federal law. Donald Trump realizes that he has committed an offense, a breach of his oath of office, and that by any playbook, this is like a mathematical equation. I don't care what your political party is, this would constitute a high crime and misdemeanor. So his only play is to try to normalize it by getting on television now and go extremely absurd, calling every country to investigate domestic issues in the United States. Now, I say all that to say this. When I said I don't have a dog in this fight, what I'm saying is what's being tested now isn't a D or an R. It's the basic notion of separation of powers. It's the basic idea that there is a constitutional form of government in this society that's bigger than any political party. And what we see right now is a structural failure. Now, the question becomes what happens in the wake of that structural failure. And it's very interesting now because if the shoe were on the other foot, I expect that both sides will be calling for an impeachment, but I can't say that for sure. The only other thing I would say is the only side that's been tested in this regard is the Republican Party, because when it was Richard Nixon, the Republicans came around to support impeachment. When it was Bill Clinton, you had some Democrats that said he should be impeached. But in this case, they've been lockstep, and I think they're probably going to march the U.S. Constitution right off the cliff that it's probably been teetering on for the last 200 years.
Mustafa, what is quite interesting, again, is to look at the so-called party of law and order, saying it's perfectly fine what Donald Trump is doing. And then what we had is they were hiding the actual full transcript. What was released wasn't the actual transcript. That was a partial understanding of the transcript. But to Greg's point, right, he wants to normalize this. He wants to say, oh, no, it's perfectly fine, because this guy has no problem with foreign interference in a U.S. election to help him.
Well, I think the president actually needs foreign assistance to be able to feel that he can be competitive. I mean, if you're going to be real about it, and all due respect to the other panelists, but I didn't hear the president asking, Russia to go out and look in a different way than they did. And then the founders were very clear about this in the sense of making sure that there were not a foreign government interfering in our elections, and that's exactly what this is about. And unfortunately, what we are moving toward is an autocratic system of government. I've heard people use the word dictatorship, and the president wants to have full power. He does not want to have checks and balances, which every other president has followed since the founding of our country, because he knows that if there were truly checks and balances, and what we really have to do, as the professor said, is that as we're moving forward, folks are going to have to strengthen this process so that when folks are doing these types of egregious behaviors, that there's actually repercussions for these types of things.
So what's interesting to me, RC, again, so you don't care. So you don't care if Donald Trump asks Ukraine or China or Putin or Russia to investigate rivals, when in fact there's absolutely zero evidence. There is zero evidence of corruption of Hunter Biden or Joe Biden.
I think that's a separate discussion, but I think that there is obvious evidence of corruption.
No, that is the discussion.
Yeah. So
that's the discussion.
Okay, well, Joe Biden literally pegged money, federal dollars, to whether or not Ukraine would fire a prosecutor who was investigating a company his son was working for.
He wasn't investigating. That's
He wasn't investigating. RC, that is a lie. RC,
That's
the
okay,
investigation,
Roland.
that is a lie. No, it's a lie. It has been reported and proven.
Right.
That is a lie.
So
You are promoting a lie.
I am. So you're telling me the clip where Joe Biden literally describes exactly what I just talked about on camera, you're telling me that's what? Is that a lie as well?
No. What Joe Biden did as vice president, along with the International Monetary Fund and numerous other Western governments, they said this Ukrainian prosecutor was refusing to actually
IMF
investigate
corruption,
which
time
is
and time
why
again.
they want.
The same IMF that's known for
Which is why
being
they
one of the
wanted
most
this guy
corrupt
out.
international entities. The
Oh,
IMF is
now the IMF. Now the IMF is
Roland,
corrupt.
I know that you're a super. I know that you're a super Democrat and you're like a Democrat Party mascot.
Actually,
but you can admit that the Bidens engaged in illegal
RC, you're a lie.
activity.
Actually, RC, see, this is the game you play. First of all, RC, I'm not a super Democrat. Right. That's first. Really? Two, I'm not a Republican.
Weren't you on the campaign trail for Hillary Clinton?
Now, here's the piece.
No, don't go down the wrong hole.
No, actually, that's a lie.
Don't go down the wormhole, brother.
So here's the
right
piece.
On the thing.
No, RC, I operate by a set of facts. There are no facts, none, zero, zilch, that show that there was corruption, Joe Biden or his son Hunter. I'm asking you again, are you perfectly fine, RC? Are you perfectly fine with Donald Trump asking China, asking who were embroiled in a tariff war, asking Ukraine, using his authority as the president to ask foreign governments to investigate political rivals? You're cool with that?
No, I care very much about this entire situation. Specifically, I care about the fact that the CIA whistleblower is working directly with Adam Schiff, who has no credibility at all, and who shouldn't be leading this impeachment inquiry to begin with. CIA is working with Adam Schiff. Like, you think that's gonna get, if the Democrat Party think that's what's gonna get voters off of their ass to back a CIA whistleblower and Adam Schiff on an investigation that we know is a sham, I mean, you're lying to yourself. This entire investigation is self-referential, and there's nothing illegal that's happened.
Greg, here's what I find to be what is so cute about the conservative lying machine. The whistleblower goes to the committee. The committee makes it perfectly clear. This is the process by which you must go through, the established process. You have an inspector general who said the whistleblower properly followed the process. Now Republicans want to try to switch it and say, oh, he was somehow colluding with Adam Schiff, but RC also never bothered to answer my question. And Greg, that's really what we have here. What you have here is the conservative machine and Donald Trump. They want to throw so much stuff out here to confuse people to go, oh, it must be something else, as opposed to dealing with the most basic, fundamental thing that happened here. That's the game they're playing.
Yeah, I think these words, these labels have become virtually meaningless. Conservative, I mean, Republican equals conservative. Well, it depends on what you mean by conservative. If we're talking about busting the budget to pay for the military, that's not conservative politics. That's certainly not a conservatism that would have been recognized. We're talking about a form of race nationalism and nativism that, frankly, it's quite disappointing to hear anyone non-white try to make this thing stand up and run it up the flagpole to salute. But I will say this about the contemporary issue. It's very clear that the Russians interfered in the previous American election. It's also very clear that Donald Trump, as he told the ambassadorial contingent that was in the White House, we, meaning the United States government, interfere with other people's elections. So this isn't anything new, but this is what I would do if I was Xi Jinping, who just celebrated the 70th anniversary of the Communist Party in China. If I'm Xi Jinping, it's very simple. I simply say this: hey man, Don, since you asked for this, I'm gonna look into some things. This is what I'm gonna need for you. I'm gonna need you to knock those tariffs all down a little bit. And the minute that Donald Trump does that, because all he has done in all of his actions, whether it be this one or everything preceding it, has been to do things to enrich himself and to protect himself politically. The minute those tariffs come down, when the Chinese say they'll investigate, well, then you see, we'll see whether these quote-unquote conservatives or Republicans or whatever you want to call them would defend that. And if they do, then I think it's very, very clear that they're putting everything ahead of anything called the United States of America, and we can drop all pretenses and finally get about the business of political transformation in this country.
Mustafa, at the end of the day, what we're looking at here is a party that will defend anything that Donald Trump does, because frankly, they're weak and scared. They're scared that he is going to come after them, and to literally watch individuals defend asking a foreign power for help is utterly hilarious, when these were the same people who accused Hillary Clinton, and it was a lie, of selling uranium to foreign entities. That's how crazy the politics are today.
The house is on fire. And, you know, when you look at folks like Lindsey Graham, who you would never have assumed would take some of the positions that he has, when you look at someone like A.G. Barr, and a number of these other folks who are now being pulled into this investigation, it just goes to show you that, unfortunately, the president cares about himself. He's willing to throw anybody under the bus who will, you know, take some of the attention away from what's going on. And the president knows that he was wrong. That's why the impeachment inquiry is so important, to go through the facts, to go through a process, and then folks can vote and make a decision. And the other part of this is that the president also knows that he's had a set of failed policies. And we can debate any of the policies if folks really want to get down to it and unpack them. There are farmers who are losing their farms. There are folks who are dealing with the floods that are happening. There are manufacturing jobs that are disappearing because there was not a well thought out set of policies that got everybody around the table and worked the process. So the president knows that his only chance is confusion and chaos, and hopefully he'll be able to squeak through in the next election if he can make it through the impeachment inquiry, and then if there are a full impeachment process that goes forward.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. All right, folks, the second annual Luxe Jazz experience will be taking place in Los Cabos, November 7th through the 11th. Now, if you want to get your package to attend in person, you can do so by going to LifeLuxeJazz.com, LifeLuxeJazz.com. But if you want to actually check out the live stream, you're going to have 14 different legendary acts performing over 3 days. I told you, comedian actor Mark Curry is confirmed, Gerald Albright, Alex Bouillon, Raul Madon, Incognito, Pieces of a Dream, Kirk Whalum, Average White Band, Donna McClurkin, Shalea, Roy Ayers, Tom Brown, Ronnie Laws, and Ernest Quarles, and more. GFNTV.com is going to be doing the live stream. You can actually get that live stream package for $10.99. That's $10.99. And so all you got to do is go to GFNTV.com to actually do that. So I want you guys to do that. You can get your live stream pass between now and October 30th for $10.99 at GFNTV.com. 3 days of amazing concerts. Don't forget, Roland Martin Unfiltered will be broadcasting from there Thursday and Friday. But again, the live stream pass, live stream pass through GFNTV.com. $10.99 for those 3 days, and so you want to check that out. Of course, GFN TV, this is your world, and it is in your image. Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered video.